Hello and welcome to the Teacher Experience. Today we bring you the episode Thriving Teacher Mums. This episode is dedicated to helping busy teacher mums and teacher mums-to-be not just survive but truly thrive in motherhood. We are your hosts, Miss Wylde and Miss Dearman, and we're excited to bring you practical tips, inspiring stories and expert advice each week. Today we have a special guest, Jen, an advocate for empowering mums through yoga, pranayama or breathwork, mindset, meditation and nutrition. Jen will share her insights and strategies to help you find balance, joy and fulfillment in your busy life. Whether you're in the classroom or at home, this podcast is your sanctuary for self-care and personal growth. Let's embark on this journey together to create a life where you can thrive, not just survive. So welcome, Jen. Today we like to start all of our podcast episodes with a what went well and even better if. So Jen, could you start by telling us what your what went well is from this week, please?
My what went well this week was I've actually absolutely smashed my side of the reports for the end of the year. So I'm winning. That's the first time that's ever happened. That's an absolute win for the week. And my even better is if I took some of my own advice and started living in the present moment a little bit more, calming down, switching my brain off. I found recently this week especially, I haven't been able to get to sleep and then I've been waking up in the middle of the night. So absolutely going back to basics and taking my own advice to make my week even better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so annoying, isn't it? We all are so good at giving out advice and telling people what a good way to live is and how to make sure you've got a good work-life balance. But it's so easy to not take that advice on ourselves. I do it all the time and I infuriate myself by not taking my own advice. Okay, so the next part is what a typical day looks like for you. So Jen, can you tell us what your typical day looks like and any self-care practices that you use regularly?
Yeah, typical day for me. I find a bit of pressure with this one because everyone goes, oh, you're a yoga teacher, you must be doing yoga all the time. And it's just not the case at all. And as this conversation moves on, and we'll see how motherhood changes, how you look at well-being and how you can fit it into your everyday. So for me, a typical day is, I've got two little boys, they're 3 and they're 6, and they wake up at the crack of dawn. But for me, I always try and wake up that little bit earlier because I like just start my day with a little bit of silence. That doesn't mean I meditate for half an hour. That's, you see all these things, you have to wake up at 5 a.m. Let's, do this. It just doesn't exist sometimes in the real world. And I think we have to take our pressure off ourselves, including myself as well, taking my own advice. So for me, it's waking up just a moment earlier so I can breathe, so I can say thank you, express a little bit of gratitude. And that just really sets the tone for my day. Have a nice little cup of coffee, hopefully before the boys wake up, and then get ready more slowly. And I find that I'm in a better mood before I leave for work. The boys are in a better mood before they go to school, all round really. Leave the house around 7:15, go to work, come home, that typical, mum day, and then you're doing the dinner, you're getting the kids bathed and ready for bed. But then it's the end of the day for me that I really relish in. I absolutely love it. So we have bedtime, our little bedtime routine is we all jump into the boys' bunk beds, read books, we snuggle. And that just, I love that part of my day. That for me is so special because although I might not get a chance to practice yoga every day, that for me is really practicing mindfulness and being in that present moment. And one of my favourite sayings is from Ram Dass, it's be here now. And I have to constantly remind myself of that all of the time. It's a constant practice. So for me, that time in the day is to really be here now, to be present with them and to appreciate the fact that I can snuggle them in the nice warm beds and things like that. We've had a lovely dinner, really going through those, they're called glimmers in your day. So you might have had a real stinker of a day, but then if you sit and you look back and you look for those little glimmers throughout your day, it might be something really tiny, but that really, it helps you to go to sleep overnight as well, knowing, right, okay, I can set this day, I can put it to bed now and I can look for all the good stuff. So in that moment for me is when I do that. And that's really what I try to teach mums as well. It's not having to sit down and have this big formal practice. It's really finding those micro moments of your day to be mindful, to breathe, to show your gratitude, all those things. You have to look at well-being differently as a mum. So then of an evening when the boys go to sleep eventually, breathwork for me is absolutely key So if I can't get to do physical practice, I will breathe before I go to bed. And if I don't breathe, then I wake up in the middle of the night, then I don't sleep. So if that practice drops off for me, I can really tell. So breath work for me is absolutely key. It's essential. And again, that's not half an hour, it's 5 minutes. It's sitting there, just breathing, just being mindful. Journaling for me as well, getting everything off my head for the day. Mel Robbins is great. She says, you know, you have to don't be an innie, be an outie. I think that's great. She said, think of belly buttons, don't be an innie, be an outie. Get everything out off your head and out of your head and on a piece of paper. And it really, again, you can put that to bed, then it's done. And that allows me to fall into a deeper sleep as well. So that's what my day sort of looks like.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That was really, really insightful. A few things that I picked up on there was all about sort of being in the moment and taking those moments of quiet, or taking those moments of being really present with your family. Because I think also when you're in those moments, thinking, yes, I'm in this moment, I'm appreciating this moment, and the positive impact that has on your mental health is huge. I know a bit similar to you, I know Miss Dearman likes a quiet moment with a coffee in the morning as well, and will actively get up a little bit earlier in order to have that quiet moment. I know for me, I personally like the quiet moment when I get to work. And then I really love the fact that you said about those moments in the evening with your boys or your children, and sort of getting in the bunk bed and having story time. That's fantastic. And being in the moment with your kids is beautiful. But then also taking that time afterwards to do your breath work. I know, so I wear a Fitbit and I often do breath work during the day, and it's just 5 minutes and my watch will tell me how to do it. But it instantly sort of grounds me and brings me back. So yeah, absolutely. I loved hearing about your day. So thank you very much for sharing it.
I think the 20 minutes to half an hour I have in the morning on my own. So it's the same every day, even on the weekends. I'm a very routined person. So I love waking up before anyone is awake in my house. And I do the same thing. I cuddle my cats and then I have a coffee and then I just sit with myself. And it's actually really, really important to me. And when I don't have that moment in the morning, I really notice it in the day. Sometimes I wish I was that person that could jump out of bed. My partner will jump out of bed, go straight in the shower, out the door, ready for work in 20 minutes. I'm not that person. I just feel stressed. I feel like my heart rate is elevated and I'm not ready for the day. So I love that. And I love that quote you said, the reference be here now. It's something that I'm trying to work on as well. So I think innately, I'm always thinking about the next thing, whether it's dinner this evening or whether it's the weekend or whether it's the next holiday. I'm very, I think, innately forward thinking, and I'm trying to be more present. I think it comes a lot easier to some people than others. So if people are listening to this episode thinking, gosh, I really struggle with being present, that's also fine. It's something that I'm working on as well. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jan. So I'm curious as to what role do you think self-care plays in our overall emotional and social mental health?
I think self-care plays a massive, like it's an integral role in our mental health, for our mental health and our well-being. Speaking from personal experience, I'm like yourself as well. My mind will race, and I think as a teacher, I think we're quite prone to that anyway, because we're always thinking of the next thing. We're anticipating that behaviour. What are the reports we have to write? Like all of the things. Let alone when you come home and you have to look after your own children and do all, your life admin. My mind is always spiraling, and it's a constant practice. And I think that's what people forget as well, is that you can't just you have to make it sort of part of your routine. It isn't just, for example, in your physical self, when you go to the gym and you can see physically, oh, I look a bit thinner, oh, I have my 6-pack now, or whatever it is. You're not just going to then go, right, I've achieved my weight goals and I'm going to stop. It's a constant practice. Trying to maintain positive mental health and well-being is something that is also a constant practice. I think people forget about mental health compared to physical health, and it's the two aspects of ourselves that we have to marry together. Yes, you can go to the gym, yes, you can eat the right things, but if you're not looking after your mental health, then you have have nothing. There's no point in doing the physical part and not the mental health part as well. You have to do both together. And I find, speaking from a personal perspective, if I don't do my breath work, if I don't do my yoga, if I don't do my journaling, it affects my mental health. Just like you said, in the morning, I need those 20 minutes. I need those 20 minutes in the morning. I need just to sit down and, my mind to wake up a little bit. I cannot run out the door. I need an hour before the pupils come in the morning to get everything set up and done, so I'm ready in myself as well. And I think people really struggle with how to look after the mental health, because we've been so focused on physical health, what we look like aesthetically, that we've forgotten, or we don't have the knowledge of how to look after ourselves, our mental health and well-being. And so we're seeing this now rise in people really struggling with depression, really struggling with anxiety, all of those things. And we now need to, and that's why I think I'm so passionate as well, with someone who has struggled with anxiety in the past. And this is why I'm a big advocate for looking after yourself, using your breath work, using your yoga, and specifically helping mums too. Motherhood is quite a lonely journey, or it can be a lonely journey, especially if you don't have much family or a support network around you. So it's creating that community where you can come together and not feel alone, for one, but two, have really practical resources at your disposal that you can use in your everyday life really easily. I think sometimes yoga is something that's battered about, even by healthcare professionals who say, oh, you're feeling stressed, you feel anxious, go and do some yoga. Well, people don't know how to do yoga. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to meditate. They don't know how to do breath work. And so this is why we need to educate and our young people, as well as, mums and working professionals. How do you look after yourself? Go to the gym, yeah, that's great, go for a run, brilliant, but how do you look after your mental health as well? And how do you keep that as a constant practice, because it's integral to your overall well-being?
Do you know what? I totally agree. I'm a 90s baby, and I think about my childhood, and the whole focus was physical health, but in terms of what you look like. And I look back at my childhood and I think about like the Special K diet that was plastered everywhere when I was in my teenage years, like 3 bowls of Special K a day. That's what you should be eating. The thinner you are, the healthier you are. And I look back and actually think how damaging that was, because it wasn't teaching me in my teenage years how to look after myself. I actually am a biology teacher, and part of the specification with AQA biology is health. And when I first started teaching, I did this because of my own curiosity. When I first started teaching, I used to give the pupils an A4 piece of paper and I said, write down the definition of health. When I first started teaching, it was actually really different to what it is now. Previously, it would all be like, eat your fruits and vegetables, make sure you're not fat. Like, these kids are like 12 years old. So things like that. Now, some kids will actually start saying to me mental health, happiness, and things like that. So I think it's really good because these conversations are happening in society. And I think now we're doing a better job of making sure people and kids understand what it means to be healthy, which is both physical, mental and social well-being. So that's great. So we are seeing this change, which is great. So in terms of our listeners then, I think they'd be really interested in hearing, do you have any recommended self-practices or self-care routines that are specifically for stress?
I love that point that you've just made. Sorry, just before I go on to talking about specific practices, about how the children's perspectives have changed on what mental health and wellbeing are. I lead on PSHE and wellbeing in school, but when I started that role 5 years ago, the children didn't know what mental health was. We didn't have any reference for it in school. So one of my aims was to change that completely. And so now the children go from, at first, and I was asking them, what's mental health? They go, oh, it's washing your hands, it's making sure you're clean and you're eating your vegetables. They had no idea. It's crazy now how different it is just 5 years later, and how much they know how to look after their mental health. Oh, I'm feeling a bit stressed, so I'll do this. So it's amazing how much it's come on, and it's so positive. It's such a positive move, and I'm so proud of that and where it's going as well. And even when you look on social media now, and I talk to my husband, he says he works for in student wellbeing at Liverpool University, and he says they don't go out drinking as much now. They go to coffee shops and they look after themselves, and that's reflected in social media. I'm like, that is so positive. Like, I'm an 80s baby, but like I grew up in the 90s. But again, like yourself, it was that image of you had to look a certain way, and that's still there, obviously. But I feel like there's a change now. People know they need to look after their health. They know how to eat. They're questioning what they eat as well and where it's coming from, and how to look after the mental health and well-being. So that's fab. But that was just an addendum to what you were saying then. I just thought I'd add that on because I'm so passionate about it, and I just love the fact that it's changing now.
It's interesting what you said about the students at university, because they actually brought out a stat, and I can't remember the age bracket, but they were saying it's the alcohol consumption is the lowest it has been. I can't remember how many years it was, but it's the lowest I think it might have ever been for young people. So like you said, people at university aren't opting for drink, they're actually opting for non-alcoholic options or opting for coffee shops instead of going out drinking. And I think that's so important for both the physical and mental health of things. So yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's moving in such the right direction. It's just getting that balance, isn't it? So in terms of stress, I've been writing a few things down as well to reduce stress and anxiety. We're often so busy, and people often think they have to go to the gym for an hour or, go to an exercise class or whatever it is to fit in their wellbeing practices and to look after their physical health. And I talk to busy mums all of the time, and a whopping 86% of them who are surveyed said to me, I'm just so exhausted by the end of the day, I cannot fit anything in at all. I just, how do I get up and do a practice? And so I specialise in helping them to fit small moments of yoga, because yoga isn't just the asana, it's just a physical practice, it's everything, it encompasses everything, and I help them to fit small practices into their day. So for me, I am developing at the minute, it's a program called the 10-10-10 method. So that's 10 minutes of yoga, 10 minutes of breathing, and 10 minutes of relaxation. So that can either be done all together in a half-hour slot, or you can fit it in throughout your day. But again, it's going back to what I said earlier. It's finding and embracing those micro moments of your day. So I was listening to Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar on Mel Robbins' podcast recently, and he is a professor at Harvard University. He's a professor of happiness, and is one of his programs one of the most popular. And what he was saying, he talks about, it's called the MVI, minimum viable intervention. So what is the minimum thing that you can do in your day to improve your happiness? He talks about specifically, but he links it to physical activity and how we look after our mental health and well-being, because as we said before, it's well-being is an overarching thing. It isn't just one or the other, it encompasses everything that we do for ourselves. So he was saying as well, and I think it's great, it's he said you can do something for 2 minutes and that will make you happier and healthier. If you can do something for 2 minutes a day, that's going to make you happier and healthier. And I also work on the principles that James Clear uses in Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read the Atomic Habits books, it's fantastic. And he talks about getting 1% better each day. So I think people often feel that they need to do these great big things, but you don't. It's those small changes that make a difference. And it's those small changes that you do. If it's small, it's achievable and you can do it consistently then. So if you're doing it consistently, it's going to lead up, even though it's a small change, it's going to lead up to a massive change in your life and your overall well-being. So he talks about as well, Dr. Tal talks about doing something or having a burst of energy for around 45 seconds 3 times a day. And that's the equivalent of a workout. And I just thought that was amazing. 45 seconds 3 times a day, that could be running up the stairs, that could be walking to work, that could be walking to the bus stop, it could be pushing the pram. 45 second burst of energy 3 times a day, that's the equivalent of a workout. Now, I think we sometimes feel really overwhelmed by well-being and looking after ourselves and thinking we have to do all of the things. Again, if you think about social media and everyone has these gorgeous morning routines and even routines and big workouts. And as I said earlier on, that's just not feasible in everyday life, is that, when you're putting the kids to bed and cooking the dinner and doing homework and everything else in between. But if you think about it like that, right, okay, have I got 45 seconds just to run up the stairs? I'm doing a hoover and can I do it for 45 seconds really quickly? It's breaking it down and fitting it into your day. in that way. It's embracing those micro moments. So I'd take that one first, 45 seconds burst of energy 3 times a day. So if you can't do anything else, aim for that. Fantastic. Breath work doesn't have to be an hour of meditation. It could be 5 minutes. If you can't do 5 minutes, do 1 minute. Just breathe. If you breathe, we actually only use around 30% of our lung capacity, which is incredible. We need oxygen to live. We need it to survive. And we're only actually breathing from here, from our chest. And actually, if you just take 1 minute to take a deep breath in and exhale, that's automatically tapping into your PNS system, your parasympathetic nervous system. Sorry, I got that wrong. Which automatically then helps to reduce straight away things like your blood pressure, slows down your heart rate, releases those feel-good hormones in your body. So again, it's embracing those micro moments. It isn't an hour of meditation. It can be a minute. It isn't an hour of exercise, 3 slots of 45 seconds every day. And these small things are going to reduce your stress levels massively. It's pulling yourself back to that present moment all of the time. I love mindfulness meditation. So it's not sitting down and doing a guided visualization. As a yoga teacher, I probably shouldn't admit that at the end of a yoga class, when you do Shavasana, I'm rubbish, because I will sit there then and my mind will go, right, I need to get home, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do the other. I love meditations that get you into your body. So I always do things like tense and release because I'm doing it physically. So I also practice quite a lot mindfulness meditation, and that is just tapping into that present moment, what we said before from Ram Dass, be here now. So that can be something like, I'm washing the dishes. So just focus on washing the dishes. How warm is the water? What's the texture like when you're washing the dishes? Can you feel the cloth? Can you feel the bubbles in your fingers? Putting on the drain, what can you hear? Just something so simple. For me, overnight, as I say, with my little boys, and I sit there, and I often sit there with my 3-year-old till he goes to sleep. It's just breathe, and the only thing I have to do in the whole world right now is watch you fall asleep. That is it. And it's beautiful. It's just pulling yourself back to the present moment all of the time. I really learned this during the pandemic in 2020. I don't know if you've seen any of my stories on Instagram and why I started this in the first place. And I was pregnant with Ben at the time, and the whole world had shut down. And again, I'm that type of person who likes to control everything. I like to know what's going on. I like to know, what's happening next. And all of a sudden, everything was totally out of my control. I was doing my yoga teacher training at the time, but again, I was doing it by rote in my head. I was like, right, I've done that assessment, right, I've done this. I wasn't feeling it in my body. And all of a sudden in 2020, everything shut down. The whole world shut down. And I went for my 20-week scan on my own. I found out that my little boy was going to be born with a congenital heart defect. The day before that, unfortunately, my father-in-law died of COVID. And so my whole world completely changed overnight. And so everything was out of my control. And I'm a firm believer in that everything that we face in life, every struggle that we face in life is a lesson. So for me, my lesson there was to let go. So I'm not in control of this. I just have to be here now in this present moment. And it was in that moment of trauma, I suppose, where everything was so up in the air, that I had to let go. And I had to just, everything clicked in terms of yoga and my practice, even though I've been practicing for a long time. In that moment, I learned the power of just being here now, and pulling myself back to that present moment. So if that is one of the things, because that's the only way I got through the situation, I couldn't get it through it any other way. So if that is, if you take anything away from the conversation and about reducing your stress, it's constantly pulling yourself back to the present moment and being here now, and practicing that mindfulness and that mindful meditation. Because if you can't do anything else in your day, you can't breathe, you can't physically exercise, being here now is the only way forward. What's gone is gone. You can't control the future. That's going to cause you anxiety. Thinking about the past, you can't control that it's happened. You just have to be in this present moment. And that is the most important thing. And that's, if you take anything away from today, that is the key.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I actually have spoken to someone who was also pregnant during the first lockdown. And I remember so clearly her saying to me, she feels like that 9 months was almost taken away from her, because there's no photos, there's no moments with friends and family. And I remember it so clearly, and it broke my heart hearing about it. Millions of people would have also experienced that, and it's great to have that conversation, because even now, when this person that I spoke to looks back, it still does make her sad that was taken away from her at that time. So just having that conversation and knowing that other people feel that as well is great. So thank you. Thank you for sharing those self-care practices around stress as well. I think the most important thing there is that they're accessible to everyone. The biggest barrier that we face as mums, as working mums, because being a mum is the hardest job in the world, is time, because your job is 24/7. So thank you. Accessibility there is great, because it's just the small amount of time in the day. When I speak to my family and friends, the biggest barrier that they face is mum guilt. Anyone that's a mum will know exactly what I'm talking about here. How do you get past that mum guilt? Because you feel as though it's selfish to have that time for yourself. And especially if you are working, every moment you have outside of work, you want to spend with your child, because that's kind of installed into us that that's what the best thing is for our children. So how do we get past that mum guilt and that feeling that actually, if I have 10 minutes to myself, that's just me being selfish and not giving everything I can to my child?
I think that's so key, and I'm made up you asked this question because a lot of the mums that I talk to go, oh, do you know, I feel terrible, and me myself as well, like even recording this today, in my head the boys are fine, they're going out playing the Avengers in the park, like they don't care, but for me in my head I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm doing something for myself, like it's horrible, and it's there all of the time. And I think one of the things we have to realize is it is going to be there all the time. But I posted a reel, I think yesterday, about how the biggest indicator that our children are going to thrive and going to survive all depends on the mother's happiness. And I find that crazy. I just think we don't often think like that at all. But if you're not happy as a mum, that's going to have a knock-on effect on your children. And I think you have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. And that has been proven as well. So if you're not happy, then your children aren't happy. It's that old adage of when you're on a plane, you need to put your own oxygen mask on first before you help your children, because if you don't help yourself, you can't help them. And I think that's what you have to tell yourself all the time. And then not only that, it's as a mum, you automatically go into mum mode, and is everybody okay? Has everyone been fed? Is the washing done? Is everyone surviving? And you put yourself last all of the time. But you also have to remember that you have these tiny pairs of eyes watching you all of the time. You are their biggest role model. So if you're not looking after yourself, that's going to be their normal for when they get older, and they're going to realize, right, okay, I'm not, I didn't see that wasn't role model to me, so I don't have to look after myself. It might not be that extreme, but it's just an example of they are watching you all the time. So when I work out, my little boys, they come and bounce around the room with me. If I'm doing a HIIT workout, if I'm doing a yoga, or trying to climb on top of me, it's normal for them as well to see us working out, both me and my husband. And they will come and they will join in. We talk about healthy eating all the time, and we have our smoothies. We're not this obsessed family, by the way, who just eat nothing but kale, but by no means at all. Ben's 3 is going through a phase of if it isn't a chicken nugget, I'm not eating it. So but it's just trying to model all of the time those healthy habits, because that is going to be the cornerstone. Then it's going to give them something to look up to. It's what am I trying to say? It's the model for them, isn't it? You are their role model. You are modeling this for them. It's going to be their normal, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm blabbering on loads. That's what I always do, just chat. You are their role model, and you are setting the standard. So if you don't look after yourself, they're going to think that's normal to not look after themselves as well. So I think you have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. You are looking after yourself for them. And it's that mindset change, that mindset perspective. You are looking after yourself for them and for their future. If you raise your standards, you're going to raise their standards even further. And I think to tackle mum guilt, you just have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. And again, it's going back to those small practices that we have every day. It doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be, an hour-long yoga session, an hour at the gym. You don't have to organise childcare. There's loads of things online now as well. I've got lots of short videos on my own Instagram that people can tap into if they want to go and see that as well. 10 minutes a day, 45 seconds 3 times a day, just building those small moments in consistently into your day so you don't feel overwhelmed by it and the pressure of, because sometimes as well, I think it's you feel a pressure it's on your to-do list almost, but it's always going to be on your to-do list. I have to look after myself today. And it never gets done. And I think that makes us feel more overwhelmed and anxious as well. So I think we just have to think about it differently. It's keeping that in the forefront of your mind that you're doing it for your children, and then setting yourself small achievable targets so you can do it consistently every single day.
I think it's the same, isn't it? So you get the mum guilt and you get the teacher guilt. So mums that are teachers get a double whammy. So they get the mum guilt that they're not being with their child 24/7, and then you get teacher guilt that you're not doing the work that the kids need at school. So teacher mums get a double whammy of feeling guilty. But again, it always comes back to that core value of, if we don't look after ourselves, how can we look after our own kids, and how can we look after the children at school? So I think for every mum and every teacher and every mum that is a teacher, they need to just root back to that core value of, we need to put ourselves first so that we are that role model to all of the children in our lives, and they can see that if you look after yourself, you can absolutely look after everyone else around you.
So we finish every episode with a research bite. So Jen, would you mind sharing yours with us today?
Yeah, I have loads, but I'm going to choose, I think, because I've spoken about breathwork quite a lot today, and I think that's the most achievable thing for people to fit into their lives every day. And as I say, if I don't get a physical practice in, I have to do my breathwork. So for me, I find this amazing. I'm gonna throw a couple of facts at you. So controlled breathing can cause physiological changes on the body, such as low blood pressure and heart rate. It reduces your stress, and it reduces the buildup of lactic acid in muscle tissue as well, which I find amazing. But another amazing fact, and I had to screenshot this, I thought it was incredible. So we always in yoga talk about breathing through our nose. So nasal breathing synchronizes activity in the piriform cortex, amygdala, and hippocampus, which has a positive effect on cognition. But interestingly, this synchronicity is not achieved with mouth breathing. I find that amazing that you only get that through breathing through your nose and not through your mouth. I find that incredible. And it says that if you breathe through your nostrils, it reduces your anxiety levels 5-fold compared with normal breathing. So just consciously breathing through your nose, in through your nose and out through your nose all the time. I find that incredible. But I'm like a nerd when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, Miss Wylde and I are both science teachers, so we can fully appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing. And Jen, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. And I think it's such a great insight for our teacher listeners and our mum listeners, and just about how much they can look after themselves. And it can take less than 10 minutes a day.
So if you can find me on Inner Sanctuary Yoga on Instagram, and then if you hit the link in my bio as well, there's a freebie page, and there's loads of freebies there to get you started on your wellbeing journey as well.